Hi, welcome back. This is part 2 of the Fast Food and Fitness Lab series of videos. When you left off, I had students using the Identify button to pull up some data about specific elementary schools. That data is good, but in order for it to be used in a systematic fashion for the test that we want to run to see if there's a relationship between the density of fast food in a neighborhood and the level of fitness of the fifth graders, then we need to convert that point data that shows up as dots into something else. And so the tool that I have used is called inverse weighted distance, or ID, or inverse distance weighting, IDW, and it's a kind of interpolation of data. The tool is up here in the toolbox if you are curious about how it works, and you even may want to try it yourself. It is one of the spatial analyst tools, and it's IDW here. And it is a kind of hotspot mapping. It's not exactly hotspot mapping, but it's close. And so rather than having you do it, and because some of you won't have time to run through all of this, I've done it for you. So I'm going to turn on this sort of fitness hotspot layer, and you can see how a grouping of schools with high fitness levels have a blue sort of hotspot of fitness, or cold spot since it's in blue, and then there are groupings of schools that have low fitness levels, the schools that show up in red dots, and so therefore they sort of have a hot spot of bad fitness or low fitness. At this point, you can stop the video and answer a couple of questions in your learning management system about these hot spots and the schools that are within them. These questions will sort of echo the comparison that I'm trying to create between South Los Angeles and West Los Angeles here, the West LA, Santa Monica area. So take a minute to stop the video and answer a few questions. Okay, so after you've answered the questions, what I want you to do is to take a look at what we're doing with the hotspot map by turning on you can turn off the hotspot map and then turn on the fitness level by zip code map. So what I did was I took the hotspot map and I took the average of the values within the hotspots. So if I click here on any random square, it will give me the fitness level, the average percent that the computer guesses for that area. And then what I said was, well, stick that in the zip codes, take the average of all the hotspot raster and put it in the zip code. And so for this zip code out here, 91754, if we click on it and we scroll down to the average or mean healthy fitness zone percent, we see that that is 54%. So we have gone from the points of the schools to a hotspot map, and then aggregated the hotspot data up to the zip code level map. Now, I want you to pause again, and I'm going to ask you to answer some questions in your learning management system about the difference in the average fitness level of zip codes in South LA versus West LA. Okay, so we have the fitness levels by zip code. This is a proxy variable for fitness using fifth graders, because we believe that fifth graders are representative of the neighborhood that they're in. I'm going to turn that layer off. But as we know, the fitness levels of students probably aren't simply a matter of a single variable. It's multiple variable. So in turn, what I want you to do is to turn on and off the following layers to see the patterns that are associated with fitness level. The first one is to turn on the median income by zip code level map, and you see that in these light colored areas here, and click the refresh down here so we can get the schools. A lot of the schools with red dots are also in these lighter colored green areas. These are green. The lightest zone has less than 40,000 median income in 2015, and then these darker areas, many of which have blue schools, they have median incomes of over $125,000 on average per family. So in general, the poorer neighborhoods have less fitness. You can turn that one off and turn on the percent white map. You see that these areas in the lightest color have very low rates of white people, and these are white people who don't speak Spanish, so it's non-Hispanic whites. But then out here on the west side, much higher rates, over 60% whites. And of course, this is Los Angeles, so there's really no neighborhoods that are really 100% white. The zip code with the highest percentage white tops out at 85%. So there's another pattern that we see, is that in neighborhoods with lots of white people, the fitness rates are higher for the fifth graders, and in some of these areas that have low percentages of whites, that the students have lower fitness rates. So those are two of the variables we can concern ourselves with. But the other two that are important are worth considering is the number of fast food restaurants. So I have turned on the restaurants by zip code, and the areas in pink, like this one up here in West LA, it has less than 10 or fewer than 10 fast food restaurants. And then, for example, this one out here in 90022 in East LA, if we roll down here, we see that it has 52 fast food restaurants. You should pause the video right now and answer a couple of questions about the restaurants by zip code layer map. Okay, so after you've answered some questions about the number of fast food places, particularly within the ban zone and then over on the west side, then it's time to take a look at another measure of access to fast food. And this one is the fast food location quotient score. So the location quotient, and you should make a note of this because I'm going to ask you a question, is basically what is the percent of fast food restaurants compared to all businesses in a zip code, and how does that stack up in a specific zip code against the pattern that you see across Los Angeles. So for example, if in Los Angeles 10% of all businesses are fast food, and say in this zip code over here 90045, also 10% of all businesses are fast food locations, then the location quotient score will be 100, meaning that the local density of fast food matches the region or the whole county-wide pattern. These areas in red have far greater percentage of fast food restaurants than you would expect given the county-wide average. These areas in blue have far fewer fast food restaurants than you would expect given the number of businesses based on, once again, the entire county's pattern. And so these areas in blue have low location quotient scores, which means they have fewer fast food restaurants than the countywide average percent, and these areas in red have more. So this is a pattern that differs in many ways from the total number of restaurants. You can flip them on and flip them off, and note that some of the places that, even though they don't have a total number of fast food restaurants in an area that is high, as a percentage of all the businesses, it may be very high. So maybe there's only 10 businesses in the whole zip code and 5 of them are fast food. That would make 50% of all businesses are fast food. Countywide, only 10% might be fast food. And so that is 5 times more than you would expect. And so the location quotient would be 500 to indicate a 5 times greater percentage than you would expect. We see that the location quotient scores go from 0 all the way to 343. So these areas up to 343, far more fast food than you would expect. All right, so now that you know what location quotient is, answer a question about location quotient, and then answer some questions about the location quotient or fast food density in the fast food ban area. I'm going to turn that back on here, and then again, once again, up in the corner of this map on the west side and Santa Monica areas. At this point, you can pause the video, and that's the end of this part 2 video.